there's one thing we can learn from your Congresswoman is that if Cori Bush can do what she did, anything is possible. Because that was a political dynasty that she literally took down. And Missouri, it's a very interesting state because it's one part heartland, it's one part Midwest. So it's got a lot of those elements of economic populism. It's a state that was very popular with Harry Truman way back in the day. So there is an interesting history here. What have you learned from meeting with the voters all over the state? Obviously, there is a huge difference in terms of obviously the more progressive city, of course, is Kansas City, but there's a lot of populism in the state. So how would you say that is reflective in what you're trying to do? Because I do think that one thing that was very distinct between the last Senate election between Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley is that McCaskill really leaned hard into establishment politics and Hawley leaned really hard into populism, and it proved to be a winner. So what have you experienced from just meeting with all different types of voters? Because it is a very unique state in a lot of different ways.
Sure. I mean, I appreciate the question. And I think ultimately, if you start by recognizing that populism is mostly an element of focusing on the working class and on individualists, what we've found across the state is that most people feel left behind. I mean, Missouri is, in fact, a flyover state. You made that fairly clear in your intro, to be honest, and it's true. And it's not for lack of talent and intellect and hardworking people and quality individuals. It's really because a lot of people don't want to live here because it's an incredibly closed-minded place at times that doesn't feel as open and welcoming to minority communities and to LGBTQ communities and to folks who deserve a proper place here. And so we see what universities call brain drain, but it's really the exporting of intellectual people and of educated people who want to get out of here to find places where they feel more part of society. And so in rural Missouri and in parts of suburban Missouri, you see places where people come out and they say, the government just doesn't work. And they can point to that. They see the potholes in their road that have never been fixed. And when populists in their current form, which I would say, Josh Hawley played into that. Josh Hawley's main goal was to give people a common enemy. And at a time where people felt like they were left behind, he blamed other people for that. And he blamed people who looked differently for that. And so populism in Missouri has taken a very different direction. And I would say that most people in Missouri, in the rural areas, just don't believe the government works. Now, people in urban Missouri also don't believe government works for them, but they see it working in general. And so what we need to be doing is getting out into all communities and showing them that there are people who actually care, and we can lead with empathy, and that we don't have to leave people behind along the way. But when we've got Republican politicians going around saying the house is on fire, and they've literally got the gasoline in one hand and the matches in the other, and you could see that they're tearing apart the social fabric of the governmental systems that protect us, you realize what is actually happening. And there's a lack of democratic voices in our state, particularly because of the way we are naturally gerrymandered. I mean, if you look at our map, you've got Kansas City as a very big blue dot, you've got St. Louis as a big blue dot, you've got Columbia, you've got some other places along the way. But ultimately, and that's a great comment that you've got below, ultimately it's wealthy versus poor. And that's really what it ends up coming down to. And so real populism is looking out for people who have been left behind. And that's the focus of my campaign. I don't pay lip service and I don't spend all of my time fundraising. I spend my time in the most marginalized communities, making sure people know that there's someone who will listen to them. Yeah. So I think that's what the government's job should be.
Right? That's the whole point of having a representative. And by the way, people, they're your employees. I fully don't understand people grasp this concept. They actually look up to them and put them on these pedestals. I'm like, they work for you. The fact that they have better healthcare is the lunacy of it all, but they actually work for you. I really appreciate what you're doing on a statewide level. What does the field look like in your primary? Like how many, what do you have in that race? You're saying it's an open seat, yes?
Yeah, so it's an open seat. It's likely going to be Eric Greitens on the other side, though it could be Vicky Hartzler, who was named the most anti-LGBTQ candidate in the Congress. But it's likely going to be Eric Greitens. On my side, there are two candidates who are my largest challengers at this point. Lucas Kuntz, who's the individual you spoke about earlier. Lucas has had tremendous success fundraising from the coasts. But he hasn't been doing nearly the same groundwork here to actually build the trust of the community and to help people. And so I think he's going to have problems because he hasn't lived in Missouri for the last 13 years. He moved here to run for this seat. And this is the show me state. And people expect you to, be very transparent.
In a state like Missouri, that's not a good quality.
So he's a carpetbagger.
Yeah, carpetbaggers in the heartland, in the Great Plains region of the United States, they do not.
And I'm not going to talk about that. I mean, but I am not a fan of moving anywhere to seek an office. To me, the person that runs for any office should organically be from the people of that place. And that's just how I feel in general, not to criticize. I honestly don't know this person, but and there's someone else as well in the Democratic primary.
Exactly. So the other one is Trudy Bush Valentine. This is a member of the Bush family dynasty of Anheuser-Busch. She announced about a week and a half ago. And so while some of us have been campaigning, I announced on May the 4th of last year and have been working 6+ days a week every day since. She came into the election about a week and a half ago, and she won't be at Springfield Democrat Days, one of our largest days as a party in the state this weekend. And she's got a lot to prove. I mean, she has money behind her. Obviously, she can self-fund to the tune of billions. But it's going to be hard for her to prove to people that she can earn their trust in that amount of time. And ultimately, I think that that's all that matters in an election.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.